From homeless to millionaire, the inspiring journey of a black man. The night was biting cold, the Appalachian wind howling like it wanted to tear the world apart. Cecilia shivered under a threadbare blanket, her fingers numb and trembling. The rough wood of her cabin door pressed against her palm. She hated having to open that door, hated it with a fire that burned deep inside. But tonight was different. There was a knock, slow, hesitant. She could hear the whimper beneath it, a child's wheezing cough that clawed at her heart. Against every instinct, she pulled herself up, legs weak, and cracked the door open. Standing there was a man, his coat soaked from the rain, eyes wild with exhaustion. Behind him, a boy clung tight, face pale and slick with sweat. "Please," the man whispered, voice thick with dread. "My son, he's sick. We need shelter." Cecilia's chest squeezed tight. Loneliness wrapped around her like a shroud. Memories flickered, betrayals carved into her past, shutting doors before light could enter. Still, something in Edward's stare gnawed at her fierce mistrust. As she stepped back, letting them in, a crackling fire struggled to fight the cold. The cabin smelled of old wood and faded dreams. Gabriel, the boy, coughed violently, clutching Edward's shirt, eyes blinking against the shadows. Cecilia pressed a cup of steaming tea to his lips, feeling the heat seep back into her own frozen fingers. But who was this man really? Something didn't add up. His hands were too clean, his clothes too fine, the way his eyes darted with secret knowledge. Her gut tightened, memories of broken promises twisting in her mind like knives. Was this a trap or fate? Storms roared outside, thunder shaking the fragile walls. In that flickering light, Cecilia caught glimpses of Edward's guarded smile and the fragile hope within Gabriel's gaze. They were strangers, but tonight, strangers forced to be family. Hours slipped by, their stories tangled in the dark, of losses, of survival, of hidden lives. Edward spoke softly of his world, a world she never imagined. Billionaire CEO, hidden behind layers of power and pretense. The truth dazzled and scared her. A chasm yawned wide between their lives, filled with judgment and doubt. When dawn shattered the night, Edward left as quietly as he came, leaving a card, a key to a future Cecilia couldn't yet see. Days later, the call came. His foundation wanted her to help change lives. But love? That was a secret she had to hide, a whispered rebellion against the cruel walls built by society. Torn between hope and fear, Cecilia watched the horizon, heart pounding like a drum. Could she trust this man? Could love bridge the worlds that kept pulling them apart? Or would old wounds tear them under, forever lost in the shadows? The fire sputtered, the wind howled again, and somewhere inside, a fragile spark flickered, daring to burn. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the ama. The fire flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls, but something was off. Deep inside, the warmth couldn't break through Cecilia's unease. She clutched the card Edward left, fingers tracing the embossed letters. His foundation, a lifeline she could grasp. Yet something about that night gnawed at her. Then came the loud bang. It echoed through the small cabin, jolting her from her thoughts. Her heart raced. It sounded like it came from the door. "Stay back!" she commanded, pushing Gabriel behind her, his small body trembling against her. The door burst open, splintering the wood as it swung wide. A group of men stormed in, freezing the air like ice. "Cecilia!" one shouted. And she recognized him. Mark, the man from her past, the one she thought she had escaped. His face told a story of anger and betrayal, eyes fierce like a predator's. "You thought you could hide?" The shock nearly made her step back, her mind racing. "What are you doing here?" The voice came out steadier than she felt. "Looking for you, of course," he sneered, glancing at Gabriel. "What's this? You've moved on? Found yourself a new family?" Cecilia's breath caught in her throat. Memories crashed over her. Mark's rage, the nights of fear. He was supposed to be gone forever, buried in the past. "Leave! You don't belong here!" The men surrounding him laughed, a cruel sound echoing off the walls. "Oh, we belong here. You've made some powerful friends, haven't you? Thinking you can just walk away?" One of the men stepped forward, and for a moment, she felt Edward's presence slip away. The safety he represented fading like the morning fog. "What do you want?" Cecilia said, her voice trembling. Mark stepped closer, his breath hot with contempt. "It's simple. You owe me. You always have. I know everything. About you, about your little secret." Her heart pounded with fear. What had he discovered? The warning bells rang like a storm within her. In a blur, Gabriel coughed, breaking the tension. Mark's eyes darted to the boy, a flicker of recognition jolting him back. "Is this?" And that's when it hit her like a slap in the face. No. The word escaped her lips without thought. "You can't." Mark smirked, the cruel glint in his eye turning cold. "Oh yes, you should have known I'd find out. Edward and his foundation. You're banking on the very man I've been looking for. Don't you see? You're caught in a web. There are pieces of your past that won't let you go." Everything spun. The fragile trust she had felt, the warmth that flickered between her and Edward. It all felt like ashes now. "You won't take him. Not after everything." Mark stepped closer, shadows swallowing him. "You think he'll protect you? He'll reject you when he knows the truth. You're nothing but a plaything to him. You've built a dream on lies." Gabriel whimpered, and Cecilia's breath quickened. The cabin felt like it was closing in around her, walls tight like a noose. She had to protect Gabriel. "Get out," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I'll call the police." Mark laughed, an ugly sound that silenced her. "No, my dear, you won't, because this time I hold the cards, and everyone will see what you truly are." With that, he turned and signaled to his men. They stepped back, leaving her in the swirling chaos of her shattered world. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving only the echo of his words, threatening, haunting, precise. Cecilia's chest tightened, eyes darting around the small space. Was Edward truly the man she thought? Did he know about her past? Was it all just a game? The doubt curled in her gut. Outside, the storm raged on, and inside, darkness seeped through the cracks. A fragile spark of hope flickered, but was it enough to light the way? Cecilia stood frozen, replaying the echoes of Mark's words in her mind. The wet chill seeped through the walls, wrapping around her like a heavy blanket. She could hardly breathe. Gabriel was still trembling behind her, his little face pressed against her back. Then, out of the shadows, she heard a low, unsettling growl. At first, she thought it was the wind, but it grew louder, more primal. She turned, eyes wide. The furry form of a dog emerged from the gloom, its coat dark and matted, teeth bared as it crouched low, ready to pounce. "No!" she shouted, stepping between the dog and Gabriel. Panic surged through her, sudden and sharp. She had never seen this creature before, but its fierce eyes seemed to know her fears. The dog lunged, snapping just inches from Cecilia's face. She reeled back, heart racing, remembering the last time she had felt such terror. "Get back, Gabriel!" she cried, shoving him to the side. The boy fell to the floor, scraping his knee against the rough planks. The cabin erupted into chaos. Mark's men were shouting, trying to restrain the dog, their laughter cutting against the air. "You're losing it, Cecilia! First a kid, now a wild beast! What's next?" In the swirl of sounds, a blur moved behind Mark. Edward burst through the door, drenched from the rain and fierce as a storm. "Stop," he commanded, scanning the room like a general surveying a battlefield. Then his gaze fell on Cecilia. "Get Gabriel out of here." Cecilia nodded, instinct taking over. She ushered Gabriel toward the small window, desperate for a way out. But before she could reach it, a loud crash echoed from the back of the cabin, roaring like thunder. The roof seemed to tremble, and dust rained down. "Run!" Edward shouted, pulling her back. "This isn't just a threat from your past. It's bigger!" Cecilia's mind spun. "Bigger?" She turned to him, confusion etched across her face. Did he know something? And then it happened, a blinding flash of light that seemed to tear through the darkness, illuminating every corner of the room. "No!" Mark yelled, and chaos erupted like a shaken can of soda. The dog howled, racing at Mark, teeth snapping. That's when everything changed. There was a deafening boom, and the cabin shook again. But the blast didn't come from outside. It came from the interior, from the very walls, like they couldn't hold the truth any longer. A panel in the wall splintered open, revealing a hidden room. Inside, a stash of documents spilled out, old photographs and names long hidden. Cecilia's breath hitched. She recognized her own name, scrawled in a letter, intertwined with another name she never expected. "Edward!" "What is this?" Her voice was hoarse. She pulled Edward closer, eyes searching his. "You knew?" The laughter died in Mark's throat. "You didn't tell her? The charity? It's a front." Mark's words hung in the air, fat with implication. Cecilia's thoughts crashed together like waves. Edward leaned closer, the urgency in his voice slicing through the tension. "Cecilia, listen, this isn't what you think." But he was too late. As Mark's men grabbed for the hidden loot in the chaos, a photograph tumbled to the floor. A picture of them, Cecilia and Edward, smiling, arms wrapped around each other, their faces shining bright like sunflowers in spring. But in the background, shadowing them both, was a figure, a man with the same eyes as Edward. The room grew suffocating. Cecilia's heart raced, a painful tightness gripping her. She was plunged into a whirlwind of questions. Who was this man? What secrets was she caught in? The light from outside flickered, revealing the storm still raging as if reflecting her turmoil. Then another voice came, soft but clear. It's time to choose, Cecilia. She spun to see Gabriel, tears in his eyes, clutching the remains of the card Edward had given. Are you with us? Cecilia stood frozen. The lines had blurred, the stakes had risen, and in that moment of chaos, everything she thought she knew faded. Was she trapped, or could she step into the unknown alongside Edward? This man she thought she understood. The storm raged, the hidden room called to her, and her heart pounded a rhythm of uncertainty. Would she dare to step closer to the truth? Cecilia stood frozen. The lines had blurred, the stakes had risen, and in that moment of chaos, everything she thought she knew faded. Was she trapped, or could she step into the unknown alongside Edward? This man she thought she understood. The storm raged, the hidden room called to her, and her heart pounded a rhythm of uncertainty. Would she dare to step closer to the truth? Gabriel's small voice broke through the turmoil. Are you with us? His eyes shimmered with a childlike hope mixed with fear, and the gravity of the moment bore down on Cecilia like a heavy blanket. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the hidden room, pulling their focus. Papers fluttered like wings caught in a breeze, and a figure emerged from the shadows. A woman appeared, her hair wild and matted, her clothes torn as if she had fought through a storm herself. Cecilia gasped, recognition hitting her hard. Mom? The words slipped from her lips, filled with disbelief. The woman's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and relief. Cecilia, oh my God, you're alive! She stumbled forward, but Cecilia stumbled back, shock rippling through her. Mom? How? Why are you here? Confusion tangled with joy in her chest. Years of questions rose like bile. The woman who had vanished without a trace now stood before her, enigmatic and frail. Cecilia, it's not safe. She looked around the cabin, dread written across her face. We need to go, all of us. What do you mean? Edward stepped closer, tension crackling in the air. Who is she? She's my mother! Cecilia's voice trembled, barely able to grasp the new truth. Reality tilted on its axis, shaking her foundation. But how? Why didn't you come back? Because I was running from him, her mother gasped, glancing fearfully at Mark. He knows everything. He has people everywhere. Before she could finish, Mark laughed, a chilling sound that echoed ominously in the cabin. This just gets better and better. Didn't you know, Cecilia? She's not just your mother. She's also the key to all of this. What do you mean? Edward's voice turned sharp, protective. What does that mean? Your mother, Mark sneered. She made deals with people who wouldn't hesitate to destroy us all. This was never just about you. Thank your dear mom for that. Cecilia's heart dropped. What? She felt the ground shift beneath her. "You're lying." But doubt gnawed at her like a hungry wolf. "No, Cecilia," her mother said urgently, tears brimming. "I didn't think they would come after you too. I wanted to keep you safe." "Safe?" Mark scoffed. "Look where your safety got her." "You thought she could just vanish? Secrets always come back to haunt you, sweetheart." Gabriel began to cry, sensing the tension. "Stop it!" he shouted, a child's innocence piercing the heaviness. "Why can't we just be together?" The room fell silent, the weight of unspoken truths pressing against them all. Suddenly, a loud explosion ripped through the air, shaking the cabin violently. The walls trembled, dust cascading from the ceiling like dark snow. Then came another sound, a piercing shriek, louder than the storm outside. The sounds of the chaos faded as time seemed to stall. Their eyes turned, fear gripping every heart. Mark's men backed away, fear carving their faces. In that instant, the ground beneath them split open, revealing a dark void shimmering with an unnatural glow. "What is happening?" Cecilia's voice trembled, her mother's hand gripping her arm tight. From the void, shadows began to rise, forming into figures, shapes she couldn't comprehend. They moved with a speed that sent shivers down their spines. "Run!" Edward shouted, pulling everyone back. But it was too late. Mark screamed, his bravado faltering as the shadows engulfed him. "No, this isn't how it ends." Then darkness swallowed the room, and suddenly everything went black. Silence fell like a weight, but in that silence, Cecilia felt a strange comfort. Maybe this was the end of what she once knew, but was it also a beginning? Her heart raced, mysteries swirled, and a new question formed. Who or what had she been running from all along? Would she ever find the answers? The shadows whispered, their secrets weaving through the darkness. As the cabin trembled, the storm outside seemed to pause, holding its breath, waiting for Cecilia's next move. The darkness thickened like a fog, wrapping around them as the shadows loomed. Cecilia's heart raced, pounding against her ribs, each beat a reminder of the danger. Then came a sound, a loud crack that split the silence, causing the shadows to writhe in response, and she recoiled, a chill creeping up her spine. "Cecilia!" Edward's voice broke through the dimness, filled with urgency. The chaos turned into a frenzy as Mark and his men scrambled backwards, tripping over themselves in fear. "We need to go!" But before Cecilia could move, a blinding light cut through the gloom. It burst from the hidden room like a shockwave, illuminating everything in an otherworldly glow. The shadows shrieked, their forms dissolving, and for a moment, fear gripped her heart. What was happening? As the light faded, Cecilia's pulse slowed enough to let her fear morph into disbelief. The trembling figures emerged clearer now. Faces she recognized. Friends and family, long thought lost. They tore through the shadows, yawning with pain, relief, and fury. "Mom?" Her voice fell to a whisper again, tears blurring her sight. "Is that really you?" "Cecilia!" Her mother's face was a tapestry of regret and longing. But then, from the thrumming chaos, another figure stepped forward. It was someone she never expected, someone she thought had been an ally. Marcus, Edward's trusted aide, emerged from the light, eyes flickering with mischief. His smile widened slowly, an unsettling grin, like a mask slipping to reveal darkness beneath. "Surprise!" he shouted, the mockery dripping from his tone, as if he had orchestrated the entire game. "What?" The single word echoed like a gunshot. Confusion swept through the room like a whirlwind. "I thought you caught on!" "Cecilia! But alas, you were blind." Marcus's voice was silky smooth, weaving through the chaos. "This whole charade was a meticulous design, darling." Cecilia's breath caught. Had she truly been played from the beginning? "What are you talking about?" "Your mother and I go way back. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that the key to a fortune was right under my nose." He pointed a finger, sending a chill down her spine. "I thought you could be useful, and here you are." The world felt like it was tilting. "No, this can't be true." She looked at Edward, searching his eyes for clarity. "Tell me he's lying." "Cecilia," Edward stepped forward, voice strained. "It's not what you think. Marcus manipulated us, both." Cecilia's heart shattered. "You knew? You let him pull the strings?" "No, I had no idea." Edward lowered his voice. Desperate sincerity broke through his panic. "Please believe me." But before she could respond, a tremor rocked the cabin. The ground shook, splitting further, and shadows danced wildly, growing fangs as if to swallow them whole. In the chaos, Cecilia's mother grabbed her hand, a fierce grip tinged with fear. "We need to leave, now." But Marcus laughed, an ungodly sound that echoed with the mounting chaos. "You think you can just walk away? This is a web, and you're all tangled in it!" A sudden roar erupted outside, the cabin walls rattling. Figures appeared, more menacing than before. Vile specters from the shadows, drawn to Marcus's call. "Woo!" Cecilia gasped. "What have you done?" The shadows surged forward, relentless. In that horrifying moment, something shifted in the energy. All at once, the darkness opened wide, and the shadows engulfed Marcus. His scream pierced the air, swallowed up in the darkness. All eyes shifted back to Cecilia, shock ringing in the silence. The storm outside howled, lightning flashing as a battle raged within the darkened cabin. Had Marcus's betrayal awakened forces beyond comprehension? "Cecilia." Edward stepped closer, desperation evident on his face, reaching for her. The dawning horror in his gaze reflected the truth she hadn't wanted to see. "Are we trapped?" The shadows shifted, flickers of faces and forgotten voices whispering echoes of pain and guilt. Were they just players in someone else's game? As the darkness seemed to breathe, drawing closer, Cecilia realized there was something more sinister at play. The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Who were they really, caught in the web of someone else's twisted fate? And would they ever unravel the truth? The shadows surged, an angry tide threatening to swallow them whole. Cecilia's heart raced as her mother's grip tightened on her hand. The light that had broken from the hidden room flickered, fighting against the darkness. "Cecilia, we have to move!" her mother cried, panic bubbling in her voice. "They'll come for us!" Edward stepped closer, eyes darting from Cecilia to her mother. "Who are they? If Marcus is working with your mother, then what does that make him to you?" Stop! Cecilia shouted, her voice cracking. Just stop! This is too much! But the chaos around them cranked up another notch. Mark's men were now trapped between shadows and agents of fear, confusion swirling in their eyes. One stumbled, falling against a wooden beam. The shriek rang out, cutting through the chaos like a knife. Suddenly, the floor cracked beneath them, a jagged fissure opening wide. Cecilia felt herself teetering, the sense of balance swaying dangerously. She caught a glimpse of dark, writhing tendrils reaching from the abyss below, snatching at the air like desperate hands. "Grab hold of something!" Edward shouted, lunging forward to steady them. Cecilia fought to hold on to the urge to scream. All she could think about was Gabriel, still huddled in a corner. "Gabriel!" she called, glancing back. But he was staring at the void, frozen, mesmerized by the shadowy dance. "Get him!" her mother urged, desperation cracking her voice. "I will!" Cecilia backed away from the swirling chaos and rushed to Gabriel. She could see the fear in his eyes, pleading for reassurance in a world gone mad. "Gabriel, come on, we need to go!" As she grabbed his arm, the shadows lashed out again, a howl filling the air. A shadowy figure surged forth, seemingly unfazed by the struggle between darkness and light. It narrowed down, coiling towards Cecilia like a snake, ready to strike. A blinding flash erupted. "Cecilia!" Edward shouted, his voice pulling her from the grip of fear just as the brightness enveloped everything. It was like the sun exploding through the dark clouds. And in that moment, the entity lunged. The impact knocked her to the ground, scattering light and shadow, merging everything into a single point of energy. She shielded her eyes, bewildered. And then she heard it, a voice, soft yet commanding, echoing through her bones. "Cecilia, remember." The world around her virtually folded. She blinked hard, trying to grapple with the chaos swirling in her mind. The shadows dissipated, leaving only that voice ringing in her ears. The shimmering light revealed a figure emerging from the darkness, replacing confusion with clarity. It wasn't who she expected. "Dad?" The word burst out of her. Shock washed over her, and her heart sank as realization hit. How could this be? The last image she had of him was burned in her mind, a memory of loss and despair. But there he was, standing before her, looking as real as ever, softened yet strong. His eyes bore into hers, filled with a mix of compassion and regret. "I've been waiting for you," he said, voice ancient and wise. Cecilia's breath caught. "This is impossible. You died?" "I know what you think." His voice drowned out the noise, drawing her in. "But everything is connected. The shadows, the truth. Marcus, it's all tied to us." The room went silent. Even the shadows seemed to pause, staring wide-eyed at the man who had once been lost to them. "Your mother was never the enemy. It was never about that. We were protecting you, but it goes deeper." The ground trembled again, but this time, it felt different. Their surroundings quaked with burgeoning energy. A fierce wind swept through, pulling at their clothes and hair. "We need to unite, now, before it's too late." "What do you mean?" Cecilia struggled to understand. But before he could explain, the ground split further, swallowing Mark and his men whole. Their screams echoed into the void, chased by darkness. Cecilia's world spun, and doubt trickled back. "Are you really him?" she whispered, struggling to process the upheaval in her heart. "I am more than you know," he said, eyes glimmering. "And so are you." With those words, the light wavered once more. The walls of certainty crumbled as secrets cascaded like shadows around them. Did they even know who they truly were? As the wind howled around them, the desperate beat of her heart mixed with confusion. Everything she thought was real was now shrouded in a tapestry of shadows and light. Then the truth rang like a chime through the storm. "Join me," he beckoned. "Together we can end this or become part of it." And in that defining moment, Cecilia faced a choice: to plunge deeper into the unspeakable truth, or pull back and surrender to the familiar past. Cecilia stood there, awash in confusion and shock. Her father's words echoed in her mind, swirling around the chaos they were in. Shadows danced like angry spirits, the air buzzing with heavy tension. But before she could grasp his full meaning, everything erupted. A violent tremor shook the cabin. The walls quaked, plaster dust raining down like a shower of small stones. It felt like the very ground was tearing itself apart. Gabriel whimpered, instinctively clutching her leg, eyes wide with fear. "Cecilia! We have to leave now!" Edward shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Cecilia could barely process their father's sudden appearance. She felt her heart race, the world tilting like a carnival ride gone too fast. Just as they turned, the shadows surged again, but this time something worse happened. An explosive crack split the air. A portal opened beneath Mark and his men, pulling them into the swirling void below. Dark tendrils reached up, grabbing at anything they could. Cecilia squeezed Gabriel tightly, keeping him close. "We can't stay," she yelled, glancing back at her mother and father, torn between escape and the chaos that surrounded them. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed something moving, flickering at the edge of the light. It was a shadow, but it wasn't like the others. It darted, blurred and fast, almost human in its shape. "Dad, look out!" she cried, pointing. His eyes widened just as a dark figure lunged at him, its form coiling like smoke around his shoulders. "Cecilia, run!" he barked, voice strained. But instead of fleeing, she gasped. The shadow shifted, revealing a familiar face that sent a shockwave through her. It was Marcus, his eyes gleaming with a sinister delight. "Did you really think I was out of the game?" he sneered, twisting around her father like a serpent. Cecilia's chest tightened. "No, I thought you were—" He grinned, teeth sharp and mocking. "Oh, I was just waiting for the right moment." He raised a hand, and an energy surged to life, filling the room with an electrifying intensity, pulsing around him as tendrils snaked toward her dad, pulling him closer into the encroaching darkness. "Stop!" Cecilia shouted, the fear igniting her defiance. But Marcus laughed, the sound dripping with malice. "You see, Cecilia, I didn't want just your mother. I wanted you too! You're the best part of this family! The last piece of the puzzle!" The weight of his words crushed her. With a sudden rush of fury, the shadows encroaching, the storm outside raging, Cecilia felt a spark ignite inside her. "Leave him alone," she screamed, pulling Gabriel closer, refusing to back down. In that weightless moment, rage and adrenaline propelled her forward. Without thinking, she lunged. "Get away from my family!" A flash exploded in the room, bright as a star. The ground shook harder, as if the world itself gasped. It was then she realized Marcus wasn't just manipulating her father. He was entwined in this dark power, an anchor to the chaos. And as she reached out, Marcus grinned. With a deafening roar, the cabin walls crumbled under the strain. Down came the roof, smashing against the floor with a shudder, like the universe was trying to swallow them whole. Figures twisted and shrieked in the darkness. Cecilia's heart slammed in her chest as the shadows recoiled, light bursting forth. But just as quickly, a shadow surged from the void, enveloping her mother in its grip, yanking her hard, pulling her away. "Mom!" Cecilia screamed, reaching desperately. But the shadows pulled tighter, dragging her mother further into the abyss. "No!" The cry tore from her throat. Time slowed, each heartbeat echoing raw pain. It felt like a nightmare unspooling, and all of a sudden, a flicker caught her eye. Mark appeared, grinning madly, shadowy hands grasping at the void. And then everything went dark. A chilling silence followed, broken only by the crackling remnants of shadows fighting against the surge of light. The world felt muted. But when the dimness finally faded, Cecilia discovered an unbelievable truth. As she staggered back, she realized her father's visage had changed. No longer the loving man she'd yearned for. He morphed before her very eyes into Mark, a cruel grin creeping across his features. "Welcome to my game, Cecilia," he said, his voice laced with malice. The ground vanished from beneath her. Everything she thought she understood flickered and faded. The dark power cackled, shadows swirling as her family was torn apart. Cecilia gasped. The line between friend and foe blurred. Was it all just manipulation? Was anyone truly who they seemed? As dread flooded her heart, she faced an impossible truth. The man she called father was entwined in a darkness she couldn't comprehend. With desperation clawing at her, their fate seemed to hang in an inescapable balance. What other lies lay woven in this web of shadows? Cecilia stood there, awash in confusion and shock. Her father's words echoed in her mind, swirling around the chaos they were in. Shadows danced like angry spirits, the air buzzing with heavy tension. But before she could grasp his full meaning, everything erupted. "Welcome to my game, Cecilia." The voice, her father's voice, sounded foreign, striking a deep chord of betrayal. The room felt heavy now, the light dimming around his figure like a fading star. Mark stood close by, his smirk returning as if savoring the spectacle. She felt the pulse of fear and betrayal close in on her. "What do you mean by that?" she stammered. "You're not him." A laugh rumbled from Mark, echoing off the walls like madness. "Oh, but he is. The real question is, what are you going to do about it?" "Stop this!" Her voice quaked, but inside her, impulse surged. She clenched her fists. "You're lying!" But as she shouted, the world around them twisted. The shadows pulled away momentarily, revealing a swirling light that cast her father's face in stark relief. "Cecilia, listen! You don't understand!" "Understand what? That you've been playing me all along?" she felt the ground shifting under her feet, the very foundations of her reality crumbling. Just then, the cabin trembled again, as if each beam moaned its discontent. "No!" she cried, clutching Gabriel to her side. "We have to get out!" But before they could move, something strange happened. A ripple flowed through the air. Mark's laughter faltered. Confusion crossed his face like a sudden shadow. And then, without warning, the walls began to melt, not with fire, nor crash, but with a sickly, unnatural pulse, as if the space itself was alive. The floor liquefied, turning into a slick, swirling pool. It grasped at their feet, pulling them down. "Cecilia!" Edward shouted, his eyes wide with horror, but she barely heard him. The air thickened, almost choking. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. That's when a noise erupted, a sudden pop like a balloon bursting. It shattered the tension, and then a figure leaped through the ruptured reality, tumbling into their midst. The light swallowed them whole. "Stop!" a voice rang through the confusion. A woman, familiar yet distant, stood there. It was Sarah, their estranged aunt, the last person Cecilia expected to see. "I've been searching for you!" Time froze. Her world tilted again, and sharp pain hit her in the stomach. "You?" she gasped, struggling to grasp her reality. "Yes!" Sarah's gaze flickered from Mark to the shadowy figure of her father. "What you don't know is he's not your father. Not the one you think." A breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "Because your real father," Sarah began, but the words stumbled as the room quaked violently, shadows thrashing around them, desperate to consume. Each bolt of panic surged, binding Cecilia and the others. "Tell me!" she yelled into the chaos. "What do you mean?" Then, with a staggering intensity, Sarah shouted, "Your father is alive, but he's trapped in a fate worse than death. Mark has been keeping him from you." A bolt of cold ran down Cecilia's spine. The implications sank in, dragging her down with it. "No, that's impossible!" But Sarah's eyes were fierce. "He's been using your family as a pawn in his cruel game. You've been manipulated." Gabriel whimpered softly, clenching her leg tighter, feeling her heart break. "Cecilia, I can't lose you too!" And just like that, her world spun violently toward another abyss. Everything she had known now lay blanketed in lies, and a new reality rushed to fill the void. As the shadows howled and clawed, she felt the truth melt into the chaos. In that moment, she couldn't tell who was friend or foe. All she knew was she had to save him. In a heartbeat, she understood. Would love guide her, or would doubt drown her? As the void threatened to take them, Cecilia stood rooted, faced with a choice that could alter everything, or destroy them all. Cecilia stood there, awash in confusion and shock. Her father's words echoed in her mind, swirling around the chaos they were in. Shadows danced like angry spirits, the air buzzing with heavy tension. But before she could grasp his full meaning, everything erupted. "Cecilia!" Edward's voice pierced the disorienting haze. "We have to get out now!" Just then, a deafening roar pierced through the darkness, echoing like thunder. Lightning lit up the night outside the small cabin. illuminating the shivering beams that had become their prison. The floor bucked again, waves of energy flowing like a dangerous tide, desperation clawing at each of their hearts. In the midst of this chaos, Cecilia's mother stepped forward, her eyes fierce with determination. "Listen!" she cried out, voice filled with urgency. "We can't let the darkness win. We have to forge ahead." But Mark, still clinging to the remnants of his power, laughed with a sharpness that sent shivers down Cecilia's spine. "You think he's alive? What a nice little fairy tale you've spun. The truth is far darker." Cecilia felt the tightness in her chest, a lump forming in her throat as shadows pulled closer. "Stop! Just stop!" she shouted, her voice trembling but loud enough to demand attention. Mark stepped closer, his shadow creeping forward like a hungry predator. "You're frightened, Cecilia, and you should be. The pieces are all in play, and you're just a pawn in a game you don't even understand." The ground trembled again, and then, out of nowhere, Cecilia felt it. A rush, a surge of energy that came crawling back from the abyss, igniting the air with heat and light. The shadows hesitated, flickering as if unsure whether to attack or retreat. But then Sarah interjected, her face pale with her own urgency. "You need to trust us, Cecilia. It's not just about you. It's about everything that binds us." The shadows shrieked now, a cacophony of whispers coursing through the room. Mark's men gaped, fear clouding their faces. But Cecilia couldn't let hesitation drive her. She thought of Gabriel, the warmth of his small hand in hers, the innocence flickering like a candle in the darkness. And then came the shock, the unexpected explosion that shattered everything. A figure broke through the wall, not from the void, but from the hidden room itself. It was a woman, wild-eyed and determined, her presence an electric jolt. "Cecilia!" It was her sister, Hannah. No! Cecilia breathed, feeling the weight of disbelief wrap around her mind. Hannah's eyes bore the haunting shadows of fear, but there was strength there too. "I'm here to help. We need to go, now!" Mark's face twisted in anger. "What is this? Family reunion day? You think you can just take her?" But before anyone could respond, the ground erupted. It was as if the world had simply opened up beneath them. A swath of darkness surged, not just consuming space, but attitudes, identities, and intentions. Everything transformed. Hannah took Cecilia's hand. "Come at me! You don't know what's truly happening." Cecilia's heart racing against the sound of Mark's disbelief and the echoes of shadows gnashing teeth in the darkness. They stumbled toward the disaster, but just before they reached safety, a scream cut through the air, a desperate, betraying wail, a plea for help. "Gabriel! Stay back!" Cecilia shouted. But she felt the force pull her forward. Hannah gripped her hand tighter, the warmth, a reassuring balm in contrast to her growing dread. Just then, the unsettling truth sprawled before them. Another shadow emerged, this time a familiar figure cloaked in darkness. Edward, but shifting, losing form, transforming into someone else entirely. "Surprise!" he proclaimed, his voice echoing with a mocking tone. "You see, I've played you all." Cecilia gasped, heart sinking. Edward? No, it couldn't be. His eyes glinted with a malicious light, a smirk curving the edges of his mouth. Your sister with the fairy tale? Your father's shadow? Oh, Cecilia, they used you like a game piece, just a means to an end. A sickening realization crept in. He was one of them. The game was never about her father or the past. It was about control. And in that moment, as the shadows swirled to close in, the pieces of the puzzle shifted around her. Cecilia felt lightheaded, the weight of truth pressing down. Was anyone truly innocent? Would anyone's word ever be enough again? In the tangled maze of betrayal and family, she realized the war was just beginning, and trust would shatter with each step into the uncertain depths of her new reality. Cecilia's heart raced as Edward, now twisted into something unrecognizable, closed the distance between them. You think you've won? He grinned, a smile that chilled her to the bone. You have no idea what I control. You're merely part of my narrative. No, she shouted, her voice slicing through the tension. I refuse to be your pawn. She grabbed Gabriel's hand tightly, desperation coursing through her veins. Mark's laughter echoed cruelly. You think you can just run away? This is your fate. The shadows know your secrets. They will consume you. Suddenly, a blinding flash shot through the cabin. Cecilia squinted, shielding her eyes. It illuminated the grotesque faces of the shadows, revealing the very essence of their malice. But it also revealed something else. The opening to the hidden room expanded wider, pulling at the shadows, light fighting back with undeniable strength. Now's our chance, Sarah yelled, urgency propelling her forward. This can't hold any longer. Ignoring the surging chaos, Cecilia felt fire in her veins. She leaped toward the void, eyes steady. Follow me! No! Edward shouted, shadows writhing around him. The cabin groaned under the pressure, wooden beams cracking like bones. As they ran, Cecilia heard whispers from the shadows. You can't escape your fate! Your family is cursed! Enough! She cried. The words jolted through her, like electricity. You don't own me! We are stronger together! With every syllable, it was as if her heart rang true, and the shadows hesitated. Together, they burst through the opening, stepping into the hidden room, full of forgotten secrets, papers swirling, memories echoing off the walls. The shadows hissed, angry wisps clawing at their heels. But the light pulsed stronger here, angry with the darkness that had mocked it for so long. Gabriel's small voice broke through. Cecilia, look! He pointed to a set of documents scattered on the ground. They were pages from her father's past, plans for a life that could have been. The truth in black and white. They can't keep this. Sarah grabbed a few, reading quickly. Cecilia, this is how we can fight back. Cecilia felt hope unfurling. We can use this against them. As she gathered the evidence, the shadows shied away from the light. Shadows being pulled apart by their very own truths. Stay focused, Edward suddenly shouted, seeming more desperate than before. The dark energy around him began to flicker, but his twisted form fixed its gaze on them. You don't understand the real game at play. But Cecilia, filled with determination, no, it's time to end this. As they turned a final corner in the hidden room, a massive shadow loomed. It twisted like a serpent. But then, light erupted from Cecilia's clasped hands. She shouted with all her strength, "This ends now!" The light exploded forth, engulfing the shadow in a blinding haze. The darkness writhed, and as it collided with the light, the shadow shrieked, its form disintegrating in a storm of chaos. Cecilia kept pushing forward. The light poured from her, washing over her family, chasing away years of fear. Silence fell, heavy and overwhelming. The shadows were gone. The air felt fresher. She turned around. Edward and Mark were lost, pulled back by their own darkness. Hannah and Sarah stood next to her, relief washing over their faces. "We did it!" Hannah whispered, awe filling the space. But Cecilia's heart raced still. The door to the future felt fragile. "What of them?" she asked, staring at the place where shadows had quickly fallen silent. "Will they ever come back?" Just then, a flicker in the air wavered, an echo of their voices lingering still. "They are never really gone," Sarah reminded gently, her eyes sad yet resolute. Cecilia took a deep breath, emotions swirling inside her. "But we're free now!" As they stood together, a sense of peace washed over them. Everything was still uncertain. Shadows whispered on the edges of their truths. But they were bound by an unbreakable bond, forged in darkness and desperation. In that moment of unity, hope flickered bright, a promise of tomorrow. But as they took that uncertain first step forward into their future, an unsettling thought nagged. Was it really over? Or had they merely unlocked the door to darker truths still waiting, lurking in the shadows? If you want to find out what comes next, you must subscribe now to the channel. Don't wait 1 second longer. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this finale. I want to hear from you. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know about this ending. Their support is crucial. Let's keep this amazing community growing. This is the moment to show your enthusiasm. Join us as we dive